You are now listening to Undrafted GM with your host, Lo.
All right. Well, after a little hiatus, we are back. Had to take a little bit of a leave of absence. Pops wasn't feeling too good. He actually came down with the vid. So had to, make sure it took time so he could get better. And then, I could stay away so that way I didn't get the vid. But, it is what it is. So, but yeah, so we're back. I know that the last time that we talked, which was just over 2 weeks now, we actually talked about the mock draft, the official mock draft coming out for the Undrafted GM show. And that is something that we are actually going to drop today, since we, kind of had it in the works, had everything ready to go, but weren't quite able to release that because I thought about just releasing it on Instagram. But that's no fun. I want to make sure that people get an opportunity to yell at me. People get an opportunity to say things. And so what I want to do is I'm going to drop it this week. We're going to discuss it. And then after we discuss it, feel free to comment later. I'm going to post it on Instagram. I'm going to post it on Facebook. I'm going to go ahead and release those things so that way people can feel free to chime in, address what they feel is best. But as usual, it's going to be me that's right. So, so starting today off strong. We had the show before this. We had the Pops and Low radio show. If you didn't get a chance to check that out, go to Say What You Will Radio on Facebook. Go to the saywhatyourradio.com. Go check out our sponsors tab too. I'll talk a little bit about our sponsors, but yeah, if you guys are tuning in right now, we're going to go ahead and get into that mock draft. Let me go ahead and get this computer closed before it kicks us off, for the purposes of the show. But yeah, so Pops, if you want to go ahead and pull up that first, I'm going to just go ahead and drop it on everyone. Okay. I already at the very beginning of the show, I'm going to mix things up. Okay. My mock draft is crazy from the jump. Now, is it unpredictable? No. Is it going to look like a lot that are out there? Yes. Because I actually found that this is one of the few years that it seems like there's quite a bit of agreement across the board. Starting with pick one, I mean, this is one of the first no-brainers since Andrew Luck. Trevor Lawrence out of Clemson. Jacksonville's taking him. I firmly believe that Urban Meyer went there with that sole understanding of he had the first pick. He probably has had backdoor conversations with Trevor Lawrence. They've probably had, he probably had talks with the owner of like, hey, this is the direction I'm going. I believe the owner down there, Shad Khan. And I think that's the sole reason he went to Jacksonville. They have a lot of youth down there. A lot of guys like CJ Henderson. They just had James Robinson, that undrafted free agent. He just ran for 1,000 yards this season. I can't believe Keelan Cole left. I thought he was going to be in Jacksonville for a long time. I really liked him, but he did move on. But they have Laviska Shenault, which I believe he was second among receivers in most forced missed tackles. That sounds like a very specific stat. She said, I hate your picks already. Well, you know what? That's fine. Who would you pick? That's what I want to know. But yeah, Trevor Lawrence is going to be the first pick overall. I'll be honest, if Jacksonville does anything but that, the world may melt down, just because that's been something that's been so expected for so long now. But yeah, so moving on to pick two. Pick two, we're going to have Zach Wilson out of BYU. Katie said me is the first pick. Hey, you know what? Look, I'd pick myself as well, okay? With the contracts that they hand out for those first 5 spots especially, yeah. Zach Wilson out of BYU. You could argue, and me personally, Justin Fields here. Me personally, I would take Justin Fields. I would take Justin Fields out of Ohio State. There's been a lot of knocks on him. I've heard a lot of flack about him, in terms of like, they were even saying guy's character issues, which he does not. I mean, this guy's literally been in front of the camera since he was like 13, 14 in high school. And they've been watching him the entire way. He hasn't had any issues. There hasn't been any, outstanding problems with coaches. It's all been very well documented, especially because he had that documentary on Netflix that they did, QB1, about his time in high school. So it's very shocking to hear that, but based on some of the things that you've been hearing around the league, that is why Zach Wilson's moved up the board. A lot of people got caught up in that pro day too. Okay. One of the things with is Mahomes is so fascinating to watch. Some of the things that he does with the ball, some of the things that he, you know, it's just a moving pocket is incredible. The ability to stretch plays out with his feet and still make ridiculous throws. And so when people watch Zach Wilson's pro day and they watched him rolling left, but not rolling left in the traditional sense where, he turns his back, flips around and runs, they're talking the, you know, sense of him literally backing up and throwing still across his body back the direction he came from. Everybody got Mahomes excited, right? Everybody was like, oh, that's incredible. Yeah, it is. His arm talent's sick. But I'm going to tell you this right now. Some of the best arm talent I saw as far as power and some of the things that people could do with a football is now a tight end for the Washington football team. Logan Thomas, when he was coming into the league out of Virginia Tech, he had a torn ACL, and on a torn ACL took a knee at, I'm going to say it was like the 10, and threw a ball 70 yards. And it's just, arm talent's great. But at this level, a lot of guys already have it. They're already, set with it. Like, this isn't, if they don't have the arm talent, they're not even in this conversation, right? It's going to take much more than that. And yeah, Zach Wilson played at BYU. Taysom Hill was out there being competitive. But for a Jets organization that's trying to redo everything and trying to win, they just traded Sam Darnold to Carolina. Okay. That was a big move for Carolina because Sam Darnold, you already know what you're getting. He has a lot of talent. He has a lot of potential. You just got to find a coach that can work with it. But you're getting a first-year head coach. Okay. Never head coached in the NFL before. You have a defense that has some pieces, but you're missing quite a bit defensively. You went out in free agency. You spent quite a bit of money, right? You went out and got Corey Davis, and you have Jamison Crowder, which I love both of those guys. I'm a big fan of Corey Davis, especially. But there's so many areas that need filled. Okay. And for me, Zach Wilson is a 2-year at least project. Okay. So he's going to have to sit a full year. And then that second year, you're going to run into a lot of bumps if he starts. It's just very, very unique. I don't think he's the second best quarterback in the draft. I think it's part of the draft hype of him moving up there. So it's going to be really interesting to see if they do decide to go that route, because there's been so much talk about it. The Jets GM was actually at BYU's pro day. So it'll be really fascinating. But I think Zach Wilson's who the Jets will wind up taking there. Going on to pick 3, okay? Pick 3 was huge. Reason being, okay, this was the trade up, right? This was the ultimate move. Miami out of 3, they moved down to 12, then they traded up with the Eagles back to 6. Right? And everybody's like, oh, well, why would they trade down just to trade back up? I'll tell you why when we get to Miami's pick. But for number 3, there has been all sorts of Mac Jones talk. Mac Jones, the quarterback out of Alabama, which, name an Alabama quarterback that we've seen be successful within recent years, ever, anywhere. The most successful one wasn't even a full-time Alabama quarterback. So far, it's been Jalen Hurts, right? He's entering his second year in the league. So we're talking a situation where Mac Jones, who you want to talk about character issues, has 2 DUIs. He's now getting put in conversations for top 3. I think Colin Cowherd said it best. Mac Jones is what Mitchell Trubisky was when the Bears drafted him 3 overall. If San Fran trades up to 3 and they take Mac Jones, I hope they tank. I hope they wind up 4th in that division, just because I don't get the anti-Justin Fields sentiment. I don't get it. I mean, this man's out there playing all the best divisions, or all the best colleges in Big Ten football. Obviously, yeah, he's not SEC, but guess what? How many SEC quarterbacks are dominant like that right away? Not a lot of them, right? They're dominant in college. That's SEC football for sure. Is it a positive knock? Absolutely. Is Trevor Lawrence from the SEC? No, he's from the ACC. If anything, you could say, I'm a Pitt guy. ACC is weaker. right? I mean, he's playing Pitt and he's playing a terrible now Florida State, and he's playing, Boston College, and he's playing some of those types of teams. And so, you know, I don't think that even remotely comes into the conversation like, oh, SEC, Big Ten, he's played in bigger games. Mac Jones is playing in national championships. Yeah, look at Mac Jones' receiving core. Look at his offensive line that he's had. Alabama's always been that way, okay? A.J. McCarron looked great to Cincinnati because A.J. McCarron came from an O-line full of first-round picks, just like Mac Jones is doing. Sure, you can argue Landon Dickerson, the center, is going to be a second-round pick this year. Okay. He's a second-round pick in the NFL for a center, right? And that's probably the only reason he's a second-round pick. I think he's the best center in the draft. So, with all the rumors, there was a story that came out. Nick Saban, Alabama's head coach, was obviously in attendance at Pro Day when Mac Jones and Patrick Surtain and Jalen Waddle and Devonta Smith and the whole gamut of Alabama guys that were out at their Pro Day. Obviously, Nick Saban's there making sure everything's going smooth. And John Lynch, the GM for the San Francisco 49ers, Katie said, gosh, Lo, you really make me look at stuff a different way. I need my little high school cuz to watch you. Hey, I would hope everyone can come on and watch the show, because guess what? You said I look at stuff different. When other people watch the show and they give comments, it makes me think about things too. Football is awesome because opinions are opinions. Because here's one thing I will say, right? A lot of people, they always give out flack for mock drafts, and a lot of people, are like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. You're right. I got no idea. You know why? Because I'm not the one sitting in those multi-million-dollar conversations. These are hundreds of $1 million worth of decisions. But what we can do is we can take and speculate on the fact that, hey, this team has a need. This is what has been reported as the best player available. You can see it on film, and I mean, some of us have coaching experience. I know what a good football player looks like. I coach semi-pro ball. I've seen guys that can ball. I've been around college athletes. I've been around, so when you see that stuff firsthand, you can tell what talent is. I'm going to tell you right now, you can tell that Trevor Lawrence is the best quarterback in this draft, and you don't have to watch him regularly. You could put on his damn highlight tape and use that as a measure of evaluation, and you could tell that he's better than every other quarterback in this draft. Maybe every other quarterback in the last draft. He's just that special. So these top tier, these upper echelon guys, it's not hard to see. Kyle Pitts, that dude is the best all-around player in this draft. Katie says, I clearly haven't played, but dang, you really make me think. You know what? I appreciate that. That's a really big compliment. I really do appreciate it. But and so that's why I think when people give flack about mock drafts and all that, just shut up. Like, I could care less. That's, first off, this is my damn show. I'm gonna do what I want. Second off, you're wrong. And third off, shut up. I don't care. But yeah, so moving on. So if you want to pull those picks back up for me, Pop. So just to recap, Trevor Lawrence, 1 to Jacksonville, Zach Wilson, 2 to the Jets. So if the Niners aren't dumb, if the 49ers aren't sold, okay, and I was talking about that Nick Saban story. So what Nick Saban said is when he was at that pro day, John Lynch never came up and approached him. They never asked any questions about Mac Jones. They weren't there, they were obviously there himself, the GM, the head coach, Kyle Shanahan. They were both there watching him. But something strongly tells me that's not what they're going for. Okay. San Fran's a very physical team, right? And it's actually been really fun to watch. When you think about San Francisco and think back all the way to that Super Bowl when they played Kansas City. Okay. I know, so long ago. That team was very physical. They run the ball hard. They tackle. Like, that was kind of like Kansas City's polar opposite, right? Kansas City's all finesse. They pass the ball. They're running out of multiple spread formations. They're having receivers run the ball. Mahomes is thrown out of a moving pocket. But San Francisco almost looked like, an OG traditional offense. They're running I form. They're running, George Kittle's doing simple things like Y pop, and they're doing basic sets like that. And I think that's where Jimmy G has always looked out of place with San Fran, right? Is their rough and tough smash mouth football, and he looks like he plays to finesse, right? He's not running through anybody. He's not breaking sacks. He's not, and it sounds petty. It's like, okay, well, you know what? That doesn't mean he's not a good quarterback. You're right. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about an identity. John Lynch is one of the hardest hitting safeties of all time. If you don't remember, type it in that great bar up top, type in YouTube, John Lynch highlights. That man was laying wood. Okay. Football players that ball like that are of a certain mentality. They don't want guys, they're not trying to build a culture of guys that are, 3-point shooters, as we like to call it, right? Guys that are only shooting from range. They want guys that are driving to the paint hard, making the tough bucket, right? They want a quarterback who he could take snaps and, run read option. He can run quarterback dives. He can stick his nose in where it's gritty. And I think Justin Fields is that guy. I think Justin Fields may even be a little bit more centered, little bit more accurate Cam Newton. Everybody that knows me knows I'm a Cam Newton guy, okay? So yes, I'm already biased. But Justin Fields is, first off, he's huge, but he's he's a good leader. From what we've seen with Ohio State, I'll be honest. Let's say Ohio State was going to blow up the draft, or Jacksonville was going to blow up the draft at that first pick. The only other person they would be taking is Justin Fields, and that's just because the similarity with Urban Meyer, because they both were at Ohio State. So that's all that would be. But San Francisco needs to take Justin Fields at that spot, and I think they will. Okay, so now this is where things shake up. Okay, this is where I have everything changing up. Now, this is a very popular opinion, okay? But this has been my opinion for some time. It just continues to change who it is. Now, I'm going to give you a couple scenarios. So pick number 4, the original actual pick, you can see is Atlanta. Okay, nope, you can go back, Pop. Yep. So if you can see at the bottom, it says trade. It has Denver at 4, Atlanta at 9. Okay, so Atlanta owns currently that 4th spot. So if you personally are convinced that Atlanta needs a quarterback, which they do need a quarterback of the future, I don't think anybody would debate that. Now, I still think Matt Ryan has good years in him. I still think he has 2 or 3 that he'll compete. I don't know how long Atlanta will keep him around. I think he has 1 more year with them right now. But I don't think they want to waste Julio's maybe last year or 2. So they're going to try to keep Matt with him. Atlanta knows they could sit there. They could take Kyle Pitts, who's the best player in the draft. That tight end from Florida. Kyle said Sarah's putting short stack to sleep, but I agree with your first pick. I like that short stack. I'm going to steal that from you, honestly. I really am. Yeah, and so Denver, John Elway, it's the same thing with John Lynch, right? I was saying John Lynch has that mentality of a physical, tough, hard-nosed football team, and Jimmy G just doesn't fit that. Justin Fields does fit that. Denver, John Elway is a mobile, versatile, big-arm quarterback, right? So what's he going to look for in quarterback? And that's what he thought he was getting with Drew Lock. He thought Drew Lock's this big-arm guy. He's kind of a gunslinger. He can run around. He definitely was mobile. Maybe not a run-first quarterback or, even technically a mobile quarterback, but he did have that mobile ability to at least move the pocket, extend plays, things like that. Maybe not designed runs. But I'll tell you who is. Trey Lance and Justin Fields. And I think Justin Fields fits Denver better. However, I think San Fran makes the right move at 3 and they take him. I think Denver trades up and they go get Trey Lance. I think they get Trey Lance. They may let Drew Lock fight through this season and pull him somewhere midway, depending on if he continues to struggle, which unfortunately to this point he has. But I think Trey Lance is the guy because John Elway thinks he's going to be the guy for the future. John Elway knows that his time as GM, right, is only yay long. How's the old man feeling after the whiskey? Feeling weird. Feeling weird.
It went right to the head.
Yeah. And that's it. Because that's the problem. One shot is never, it doesn't do anything for anyone. It just hits you in the head and makes you hurt.
Exactly. I'm ready for a nap.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That doesn't do anything for anyone. But I think Denver is on the same thing with San Fran. They want someone that fits their identity. And let's be honest, what's more Denver than John Elway? Nothing. There's nothing more Denver Bronco than John Elway. Okay. And I think Trey Lance could be that. Trey Lance doesn't turn the ball over. He had 42 touchdowns without a pick? That's insane. Right? He doesn't turn the ball over. You can put him in run formations. You can move him around. They may even run a situation where Drew Lock gets the majority of snaps and they work Trey Lance in occasionally and do what Philly did with Carson and Jalen. Right? The minute Carson starts struggling, whoop. So I think that's why that trade's going to happen. I think Atlanta realizes even though they would love to have a player like Kyle Pitts, they do have greater needs along that offensive line. And acquiring more draft capital is going to be what's crucial to them. So again, first four picks, Trevor Lawrence, Jacksonville, Zach Wilson, New York Jets, Justin Fields will be a Niner. And then Denver is going to sit there and take Trey Lance, the quarterback from North Dakota State, while Atlanta trades down to 9. You can see that there at number 4. Number 5. Okay, you ready for this, Pop? So this is a tackle from Oregon, okay? My man is 6'6", 330 pounds, and he ran a 40-yard dash in 5.09 seconds. Blazing fast. Cincy and all their execs they were all at his pro day. They've been very upfront. They even had what's his name, Alex Munoz, the previous tackle. Go ahead.
Is that offense or defense?
So this is offensive tackle.
Offensive tackle.
Offensive tackle that's running 5, almost 5 flat in the 40.
And he's 6'6",
330.
That's insane.
He's insane. Huge.
He's going to hurt somebody.
He's going to hurt someone, which is the goal, right?
Right.
And since he just got that shiny new quarterback in Joe Burrow, and what happened at the end of the season? The man got hurt, right? Got hurt in the last minute of a game that was irrelevant. And since he's not going to let it happen again. So they had one of their old linemen, Anthony Munoz. I can't remember. But he was kind of giving his input on the team and kind of the current situation of the team. And he had been a big advocate for Penei Sewell. And Penei's just going to be an absolute stud. Now, same thing with Atlanta. Okay. If they choose to stay, they could take Kyle Pitts. It's not even that they need another tight end. They just best player available, right? At that point, BPA should always rule best player available at any position. Football is about the best 11 you can put on the field. Doesn't matter who you have or what they mean to your team. If the guy that you could pick, is better than the guy that you have, what else is there to talk about? But I think since he goes, best player available that also fits a need. Okay. And Penei Sewell, I don't think that's a wrong pick. I know some people are like, you know what, since he should just take Pitts. It sounds great. And if they go that route, good on them. They'll then have a combination of Tyler Boyd, T. Higgins, and Kyle Pitts. That is a phenomenal trio. But I don't see it. I see Cincy, they've been linked too long to Penei Sewell. So I think he'll wind up there. He'll be a dominant left tackle for years. And then finally, we get him at number 6, Kyle Pitts. I've been talking about him. People, this is a tight end, okay, that they're saying is probably the best receiver in the draft, meaning if they truly switched him positions, he'd still be number 1, okay, over all these stud receivers that we have. He's going to be he'll come in at Travis Kelce level. He'll come in at George Kittle level. He blocks well. He runs routes phenomenally. And he's huge. Another 6'5" guy. and he's out there running. I want to say he ran a 4.48, something insane like that at 6'5". It's absurd. He's just going to dominate right away. But what Miami is doing is they're going to draft to not give Tua any excuses. They don't want him to be able to, they're hoping that he goes out and he performs worthy of the number 3 pick that they put on him. But if he doesn't, there's nothing that, there's no advocating for him at that point. He'll have 2 massive skyscrapers in Kyle Pitts and Devontae Parker. And then he'll also have Myles Gaskin, Mike Gesicki out of Penn State. I mean, the list goes on and on as far as the weapons. They just got Will Fuller, so tons of opportunity there. And then going on to 7, Detroit could use everything and anything, right? They just went and got Dan Campbell. He's talking about biting people's kneecaps. Detroit needs weapons. They do really bad. They have Jared Goff that they just got out of that trade from Stafford, right? They have some weapons. I like TJ Hawkinson, their tight end. I like DeAndre Swift. They have it running back. They just went and got Jamal Williams from their division rival Green Bay. So they're definitely trying to add pieces offensively, and I think this is going to be a continuance of that. I actually think what's going to happen, Detroit's going to take Jamar Chase out of LSU, okay? Stud. He's going to get a lot of separation. He's going to constantly be open. He'll succeed pretty early on in his career. And then I think they'll spend the rest of the draft on defense. I think Dan Campbell realizes that defense is the crux of everything that they're struggling with. And Jamar Chase is kind of like that piece. Kenny Golladay just left, right? Marvin Jones is gone. They have no weapons in the receiver room. But he's the type of number 1 that it doesn't matter. He's going to go out and perform for him, period. If you want to go ahead and go to that next one for me there, Pop. All right. Yeah. And then awesome. Perfect. So Carolina, we talked about this a little bit earlier. Carolina made that trade for Sam Darnold, which kind of shocked people, kind of didn't. I thought it was a good move by them. Sam Darnold, I was kind of even hoping Pittsburgh would figure it out and let him sit behind Ben for a year. Sam had to get mentally out of New York. Okay. He was so far deep. He had a terrible OC. He has a lot of talent. Some of the throws he makes are absurd. So what's going to happen is he's going to go to Carolina with one of the best teammates he could get in that quarterback room in Teddy Bridgewater. He's going to learn a ton. And then he's also going to get one of the most skilled offensive coordinators in the league in Joe Brady from LSU. Okay. And then he's going to go out and get a defense that wants to, constantly compete. I mean, they have a lot of holes in their secondary, but their front 8 is always nasty. Katie said, I always wish Pitt would figure it out. Me too. We're going to address that because I actually have their pick on here. And we're going to talk about that. I'm actually really excited with where we sit because we've kind of a bunch of options on that second half. And I'll be honest, I wouldn't be mad with most of the people that we would pick in the second half of the draft. But knowing Pittsburgh, it'll be somebody obscure that even I haven't heard about before, like they seem to do every year. They're like, oh, this guy, everybody else had him in like the 6th round on their boards, but Pittsburgh picked him number 1. So, whatever. But so Pop, if you want to pull that back up for me. But so what Carolina is going to do now is now that they went and got their quarterback, they literally could go multitudes of directions. Okay. I think if you look down at number 11 there, I have Micah Parsons, who is the linebacker from Penn State, who is an absolute monster of a human. That man's like the Terminator running around at middle linebacker. And they could go that route right away. They need a ton of help at linebacker. Shaq Thompson's there. But, obviously Thomas Davis has now been gone for years. Luke Kuechly, I can't believe he's been gone for 2 years. But, and so, they're just thin there. They could go Patrick Surtain, they're thin at corner, but they do have Dante Jackson and, they need some safety help. So they have a lot of stuff, but it's all defensively. I don't see them going, some receiver in the first round. They do still have Robbie Anderson. Obviously Curtis Samuel left for Washington. But they still have DJ Moore, who's a stud out of Maryland. So they have some opportunities. And if Kyle Pitts isn't sitting on the board. I don't see it being an offensive player other than an O-lineman. So here I have him taking the best left tackle in the draft, Rashawn Slater. And let me say best left tackle because I lied. I really think Penei Sewell is the best one. Okay. But what Slater does differently is he can play multiple positions on the line. Okay. Penei Sewell is a tackle. He will be a tackle. He should be a tackle. But Rashawn Slater can plug and play in different places. And man, Carolina needs that bad. So Atlanta moved back. Okay. So this is that trade that we talked about earlier. Atlanta traded with Denver for the number 4 pick. Okay. So Atlanta traded down. Denver went up. Atlanta moves back, and they still get a player that's going to help them tremendously. They're going to get Patrick Surtain II. If any of you remember Patrick Surtain from Miami back in the early 2000s to mid-2000s, his dad was a stud of a corner. His son's going to be better. Okay, Patrick Surtain II is going to be significantly better. And here's what's really cool, too. Fun fact for you, Pops. We actually have 2 corners in the draft that their dad both played in the same era, and they're in the same draft class right now. So pretty exciting, pretty interesting. But so Patrick Surtain II obviously played for Bama, played for Nick Saban. Atlanta's going to be very eager to get somebody that can actually cover people in that very ferocious NFC South. Kyle, I'd be very curious to see what you said bold claim about. I need clarification. I've said a lot of things. I say a lot of things, but yeah, I really think, I'm guessing it's about him being better than his dad. Yeah, I really do think he's going to be better than his dad. His dad was a stud. If you guys go back and watch Patrick Surtain, or the other son is Asante Samuel II, his dad was, Asante Samuel's dad played for the Falcons and for the Eagles mainly. But yeah, so I think, I don't know if Asante Samuel Jr. will be better than his dad, because his dad was a stud, but I think Patrick Surtain II is he's definitely in that category. And I appreciate that comment, Katie. You know what? This is just what I love to do. So it makes it easier, just like, Kyle and his fishing or his guns, so if you like it, it's easy to remember. But so with that being said, okay, I think Dallas is sitting in the worst spot possible for anyone that they deem that would be worthy for their pick at 10. Yes, they're getting a top 10 player, but I think that they're kind of stuck because players that would be in that top 10, because the quarterback rush at the top 4 kicks them down. Dallas doesn't have a need that fits with anything in terms of availability. Even if you go the best player available route, okay, I think Micah Parsons is the best at this point, but that's the only area that Dallas has now invested a ton of money. Okay, so I do agree, best player available is important, but if you spend multi-millions of dollars, they've just paid Leighton Vander Esch, they just paid Jalen Smith, so they've paid linebackers that they've now invested first-round picks in back-to-back years just 2 and 3 years ago. So they're not going to do it again. I think their biggest need is corner. They're praying that Patrick Surtain falls to them, but he won't. Okay, they're going to take a corner of, guess what? A third cornerback in this draft whose dad played in the league. But this corner, his dad, okay, Kyle said Asante was the first guy I ever tried to emulate on the defensive side of the ball. I'm saying Asante was nasty. We're number 22 for the Eagles. He was nasty. But what's crazy is, so if you guys remember back in the early New Orleans Saints days, early for me, the Saints had a receiver named Joe Horn. And Joe Horn was ferocious. He was the same era as like Isaac Bruce and them. He was ferocious. Okay, that guy was dominating. And this is Joe Horn's son, JC Horn. Okay, and JC is a stud of a DB. Okay, corner, you could tell the guy's natural. But what's crazy is he's built like his dad. He's real long. He's real lanky. So he matches up with the best. He comes with a lot of attitude, a lot of swag, and I think that's a positive thing. And I don't mean attitude in a negative way, but I'm saying like that Jalen Ramsey, talk to you and get you off your game attitude, that edge, that, Cowboys, they have to get something defensively. Kyle said that was also the same time frame that I was a huge TO with the Eagles fan. Man, you might as well just have been an Eagles fan. But yeah, TO, man, it's hard. His personality was so rough, but damn, was he a good football player. But yeah, so I think Dallas, with their need for corner, I think JC Horn's the move there. I think having somebody, especially because I think what's scary, right? Me and Pops were laughing this whole season with how bad the NFC East is. I think the whole NFC East is about to do a flip. They're not going to be bad anymore. Dak decided to come back to Dallas. Washington football teams put a lot of money in free agency in. Their defense is disgusting. I don't think they're going to draft a quarterback. Let me spoil that. But it's going to be a whole different division. I mean, the Eagles with Jalen Hurts, they're going to have to really spend some time and figure themselves out. But the Giants are serious. The Washington football team is serious. I don't think the Cowboys are really serious ever, but that's just me. Kyle, don't tell your mom I said that. But yeah, so going to pick 11, Michael Parsons. This is a little bit one I did for me, okay, because this is undrafted GM. If I was the GM of New York Giants, I'm sitting at 11. This is how the draft falls out. I am running to the podium and taking Michael Parsons, no question. Now, the Giants have a current middle linebacker. Okay, his name is Blake Martinez, and Blake Martinez is a stud. Okay, 100 tackles a year, maybe 110, right? But it's always been an area of weakness for them. They haven't been able to consistently churn out outside linebackers, and I think starting out having two very solid interior linebackers in a run-heavy division, right? You got guys like Zeke. Washington has multiple running backs, right? They have Antonio Gibson that they just got from Memphis down there in Washington. They have the Eagles just re-signed. They just re-signed Jordan Howard. We're looking in a division that, because of the situation, it's going to be very run-centric, right? Having a strong interior on an absolute stud of a defense already, they loaded their secondary up. Their secondary is loaded with guys. James Bradbury's a beast. Logan Ryan's a monster. Jabril Peppers is super, super underrated. And so, on that half, they don't need help. Offensively, they have some weapons. I think the Kenny Golladay thing was monumental for them in terms of a tide. Even though I don't believe Kenny Golladay is a true number one, I believe he's a high-end two. And I think he's good enough that it makes guys like Evan Ingram better, right? Evan Ingram's I think he could be the best tight end in football if he was healthy consistently. So it's really going to fall on Daniel Jones offensively for the Giants, but Michael Parsons, I think, is that missing piece to their defense that can even put them in that top 10, maybe even top 5 elite category. Katie said, what about JJ Watt to AZ? That was incredible. Something I will say, Arizona's very weird. The Suns, the Diamondbacks, the Cardinals, they should be a free agent, gold mine, right? Free agents should always want to come to these teams, but because of poor ownership, they haven't wanted to. But look at the Cardinals' track record. They care now, right? They've been investing. They have good GMs and coaches and people that are, investing in their future. So why wouldn't JJ Watt want to come here? Whether you believe in Kyler Murray or not, the kid's talented. Okay. His arm isn't nothing, right? His ability to run the ball is not nothing. I think Kyler Murray's got a lot of upside. You have DeAndre Hopkins here. You could potentially have Larry Fitzgerald. Kyle Nussbaum, AJ Green is now an Arizona Cardinal. That's reason to come visit me enough, right? Kyle said, no, the Giants died when Eli left, and I hate Eli, but he somehow made it happen. And you know what's funny? That's the truest thing ever. I didn't hate Eli. I mean, I was just, impartial to him. I loved watching him beat Brady. That was my favorite thing ever in the history of ever. Pops, if you remember this, the first time we got DVR was the Super Bowl, the first Super Bowl that Eli beat Brady, and we DVR'd that David Tyree catch, and we rewound that thing 8 million times. But no, yeah, the Giants, Daniel Jones is, I personally don't think he's the answer. I think he's sufficient, but I don't even think he's sufficient like Matt Ryan's sufficient. I don't even think he's sufficient like Baker's sufficient. I think he's more of that Kirk Cousin level, right? Where it's like, okay, my numbers are going to be good, but I don't know if we can get there, Kyle said mouth breather. I can't watch mouth breather. You're watching one right now, buddy. I don't know if you can hear the mic, but I've been huffing and puffing into this thing the whole time. So I'm going to call your bluff on that one. But yeah, JJ Watt going to Arizona was huge for Arizona. Him and AJ Green deciding that this is where it is. There was some conversation that was had between them and some of the player leaders, Chandler Jones, Kyler, DeAndre Hopkins, right? That really made that decision. Now, I was more shocked that Patrick Peterson left, that he went to Minnesota. I can't believe that. I thought for sure if anybody was going to be retained, right? Kenyon Drake went to Oakland. I think that's a little crazy too, just because you already have Josh Jacobs, right? That's the guy. He's going to be the guy. John Gruden's not going to just, you know what I mean? But I like Kenyon Drake. I think you can use him multiple ways. Maybe that's what Gruden has in mind. It's going to be real interesting. But Pop, if you can go ahead and roll to that next one for me. Yeah, exactly. Kyle said, yeah, but the Vikings, I think, are a good fit for him. I do too. Okay. And here's what's funny is, so you actually see the Vikings pick come up on the screen. Part of the struggle I was having with this pick is that now that Patrick's there, it does change things for them. Okay. And Patrick's kind of at that point in his career. Do you move him back? Do you kick him back to safety? Right? Because even if he hasn't fully lost a step, he's doing it in a year. I promise you that. Katie said, you're doing great, and I agree. For JJ, something has to be brewing with Murray. And that's the thing. He saw something that we don't see. Now, this is my number one rule, okay? I've been harping on, people that make fun of mock drafts, as fans, you can only take what you know, okay? No matter what your level of football knowledge is, mine, Pops, anybody out there, it doesn't matter. You can only take what you know and apply it to make an educated guess, right? And here's my educated guess. So elite athletes go and play with other elite athletes because they believe in those elite athletes. Like, what's hard to understand about that? JJ Watt said, I think Kyler Murray's good enough. I'm going to go. Okay. I'm going to take you at your word. Right? People are like, oh, he's insane. Look, that's fine. Okay. Like, if you disagree that Kyler's great, well, cool. But guess what? I believe JJ Watt's football acumen over my own. I believe DeAndre Hopkins over my own. And DeAndre Hopkins was hyped when he left Houston, and he's still so excited that he invited JJ Watt to go out there. You're talking about the best receiver in football promoting one of the other best defensive players in football, especially of my generation, to go to a team. If it was some situation where DeAndre was like, we'll be competitive, but, I'm here because of a trade. I didn't choose to be here, right? If he was of that mindset, he's not asking JJ to go there. He don't care. At that point, he's like, yeah, let me know where you go. I'll meet you there in 2 years when my contract's up. So that's not the case. Like, there's more, like, you have to use the knowledge that's provided. And so when you see guys like AJ Green, who's a veteran, who has never been a free agent in his life, one of the best receivers of our generation, he knows he's past his prime, wants a shot at a ring, and he chooses Arizona, and JJ Watt chooses Arizona, that's not a coincidence. They see something. Katie said, I'm totally not a Cards fan, but damn, I clearly believe in a connection. That's my thing. Like, things don't just happen. This is what I loved. Okay. We want to talk about Pittsburgh. Juju Smith-Schuster said explicitly just a week ago, I came back to Pittsburgh for Ben. Everybody talks smack about Ben and his interpersonal relationships and this, that, and the third. But you can't say for 1 second, if you're not a person that Ben, messes with, if you're one of those people that he seeks you out, if he believes in you, like this is the same Juju Smith-Schuster that was having Andy Reid text him. Andy Reid was texting him pictures of Lombardi trophies. He could have went and played with Patrick Mahomes. Multiple years. Like we're talking, Juju signed a 1-year deal in Pittsburgh to play with Ben rather than go start playing with Mahomes and winning now. Because he believes. Honestly, that was the thing that made me feel the best about Pittsburgh's offseason. So as you're looking at the mock draft, like you got to realize these things that have been said and the people that feel like they fit in certain places, it's not all smoke. Okay, perfect example. Look at number 12 here. Devonta Smith, wide receiver, Alabama. This guy won the Maxwell Trophy. He won every receiver award that has been won in years. Dude, he's a stick figure, but he is blazing fast. He is one of the fastest receivers we've seen probably ever, and he's consistent. He runs good routes. He doesn't get beat on press. Philly is begging for him to drop to 12. That's why they were okay with the trade back. They're like, one of the guys is going to be there. One of the Bama guys, right? So Philly's taking a receiver at 12. There's no doubt in my mind that's who they're going with. The next pick is very boring, but very needed. The Chargers are going to take a tackle. Christian Darrisaw out of VTech. If you haven't seen that man, look up a video right now. He is huge.
Wait till after the show.
Now, look it up right now and then come back. He's massive. Okay, another guy that's going to be a tackle through and through. Okay, now Kyle, we were talking about the Vikings. Okay, at number 14 here. Okay, I think this is one of my favorite guys in the draft. Okay, and yes, Kyle, it's a TCU guy. You can kind of see the relationship, but no, this guy's fun to watch. He is a super rangy safety. He's going to play free in the NFL, so he'll play free safety. He's going to be a center fielder. Philly, okay, recently just signed Anthony Harris, who was the safety for the Minnesota Vikings. He's been a Pro Bowler for the past 3 years. And they're going to go out and basically replace him. I think Trevin Moehrig, he's going to be not a replica because Anthony Harris is, I think, a more run heavy as a free safety than most. But let's be honest, Anthony Harris's interceptions were insane, right? I think he had 7, 8 again last year. But Trevin Moehrig is going to be a ball hawk. He's going to be the center fielder for whoever picks him for a long time. I think that happens at 14. Now at 15, this is New England's pick. New England owns number 15. But what does New England do almost every single year? It's a trade down. What do you expect? And who do you think it could be for? Remember what I said earlier? Who did I say that everybody's talking about being the Mitchell Trubisky of this year's draft? Mac Jones. Right? Mac Jones will wind up at pick 15 because Chicago's going to trade up for him. Because Chicago does not understand how to pick quarterbacks. And I'm going to stick up for a buddy of mine, my buddy Carlos. He is a Chicago Bear guy. He loves Chicago, and he's infuriated by the fact that people love Matt Nagy. He said it's the most blasphemous thing. He is, abhorrently against him. And I'm with him. The reason being, I think exactly 3 years ago, okay, the 2018 season, Chicago, I believe, finished out with the number 1 defense. Their defense was electric. Their secondary included Pro Bowl player Kyle Fuller, Pro Bowl player Adrian Amos, Pro Bowl rookie Eddie Jackson. and then Pro Bowl player Bryce Callahan. All 4 of them are gone. All 4 secondary guys are gone. Khalil Mack's going to be gone in a year. Like, to me, winning coach of the year one time, 2 years ago, doesn't, like, football's a what did you do for me lately sport. I was just having this conversation with a buddy of mine at practice. It's what did you do for me lately, or what did you do for me now? Right? If you're letting all your best players go, letting them just walk in free agency or trading them away, or you can't find the cap space, like Chicago, you don't have an offense. Your offense is David Montgomery, your running back, and that guy's third year in the league, and you're already burning out his legs, right? Thank God you tagged Allen Robinson, made him stay, but you couldn't attract Kenny Golladay. You couldn't close Russell Wilson on the trade, and he wanted out of Seattle. Like, throw whatever at him. It's freaking Russell Wilson. So what do? You're okay with Andy Dalton? That right there tells you everything you need to know. That right there is why Mac Jones, 2 DUI Mac Jones, Alabama quarterback Mac Jones, going to do the same thing as any other Alabama quarterback, will wind up in that quarterback room. Now, speaking of Patrick Peterson leaving, speaking of Minnesota, that whole thing, Arizona desperately needs a corner. Now, here's what's crazy. This is Caleb Farley out of Virginia Tech. I have him listed here because he is the best corner in this draft if he's healthy. Okay? He's not healthy. He had back surgery. That's always really scary, right? Especially with football, because back surgery is something that once that happens, once they open you up back there, it's never fully closed, right? It's like, they say like, the shell of a car, once you break that open, it's never the same, right? Caleb Farley is a stud. He's huge. I want to say he's 6'3". Like, that's a big corner, super rangy. He hasn't played in a ton of man press situations. That's just not Virginia Tech's scheme. Okay, they run a lot of zone. Another ACC team, Pitt plays them a lot. But Caleb Farley is a ball hawk. He is an absolute ball hawk. He loves to, one thing that they teach DBs, right, is whenever people are trying to catch the ball, you want to get your hand in late, okay? And what I mean by late is once a receiver has possession of the ball and they're holding on to it, then you pop your hand through, right? You're ripping through it at that point. You're not doing it just as the ball comes every single time. Now, obviously, that's situationally, but the ability to play the ball late on purpose is something that's highly coveted because every receiver braces for the catch. Every receiver braces for impact at the point of the catch, right? But they're not ready for it as they're pulling it in, and then you're ripping through late. So that's something he excels at. You can watch that even again on his highlight tape. It's incredible. Now, being the fact that Trevin Moore got picked by the Vikings at 14 in my mock, I also think he fits really well with the Raiders. Now, I was super, super bummed. Carl Joseph, strong safety for the Raiders. Okay. He's a free agent this offseason. He was literally in the building with Pittsburgh, left without a deal, went right back to Vegas and signed with the Raiders. I was so mad. Okay. If you want to talk about, top 5 greatest highlight tapes in the history of ever, he is at least 3. Incredible. But he went back. So that I think helps them with that safety situation. So I would say their next need is a guy that can play across their O-line. They literally lost their Pro Bowl center, Pro Bowl guard, and a tackle. Elijah Vera Tucker actually will wind up probably playing guard. I know it lists him as tackle there. He'll probably wind up playing guard or being a hybrid, which again, something that they're going to need desperately. Now, Miami's already had a pick, right? They're at number 6. At number 6, I have them taking Kyle Pitts, the best player in the draft. At number 18, they're going to take the best edge rusher in the draft. They're going to take Kwity Paye out of Michigan. The man's motor it's scary. Like, and what I mean by motor, right, is you get engaged with the block, or you get knocked down, or you fall attempting to rush the quarterback. It's that ability to fight your way up through the block. It's your ability to fight off the ground. It's your ability to continue fighting and moving forward at all times and just not stopping, even if you wind up out of position. Right. And you still wind up making the play. So Kwity Paye is going to be the pick there for Miami at 18. All right, Bob. Yeah, we can go to that next one. Perfect. Just really quick. If you're watching on Good Talk Radio, that's going to be our hour. I obviously have more to go. We have about another 12 picks or so to get through here. There's going to be other picks that I do drop as well. You can check out the Instagram for that. You can check out Say What You Will Radio on Facebook, on YouTube. You're going to want to check us out at saywhatyouvillradio.com. Check out all of our sponsors. Quick shout out to Mythical Beards. Quick shout out to Arizona Cactus Football League. Nut Tree Designs Company. Shout out to Gray Feather Farm. We have a whole list of our sponsors. If you go on to saywhatyouvillradio.com, click the sponsors tab. It has an awesome picture of each of their companies. You'll click that. That'll take you directly to their stuff. So you want to tune in for that. But for those of you that are tuning in here, I appreciate anyone who's been with us this far. We got a couple more picks to go. We're going to get down to 32 at least. I am going to post. I did a second round too. I've actually done multiple 7-round drafts. I can't get enough of it. But I am going to post the second round on the Instagram page at minimum. But yeah, so continuing on. Okay, now we're at pick 19. This is Washington football team. This is their territory. Oh, that's a weird error. But so with Washington they have no defensive needs on the front four for their defensive line. They have maybe one corner. They have their starting corners already. Their safeties are absolutely absurd. Big Landon Collins guy personally. Big Kendall Fuller guy, which is Kyle Fuller's brother. Absolutely studs in the secondary. So they're good. Big Terry McLaurin's just ripping it up out there. He's a great receiver. Logan Thomas really showed up, especially at the end of the season. So it looks like, offensively they have some weapons. They got good running backs, Antonio Gibson. So obviously the quarterback situation's a big thing for them. They went and signed Ryan Fitzpatrick. They have Taylor Heineke that they want to try out, see what he does. I think now that the top 5 quarterbacks are off the board, right, being Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, Justin Fields, Trey Lance, Mac Jones. After those guys are gone, Washington doesn't want any part of any quarterback, especially not in the first round. So they're going to take best player available. They're going to take a linebacker out of Notre Dame, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. He is super rangy, sideline to sideline. He kind of reminds me of what's his name? What John Bostic should have been. Okay, John Bostic was out of Florida. He's been playing with Washington for the past couple of years, but he's going to be more of what John Bostic should have been. Obviously, not as big of a hitter. John Bostic was a huge hitter, but Owusu-Koramoah, he's even good in coverage, and that's Washington's. That will complete their front 8. Their front 8 will be nasty. They've been trying to hold on to Reuben Foster forever, but that's just not going to pan out. And so they're going to take him out of Notre Dame there. All right, pick 20. If you've been watching, you will remember this is a trade down. Pick 15, Chicago traded up. They took Mac Jones. So that means New England did what they always do, and they traded down. Now, what's crazy about this is Jalen Waddle is still on the board. Jalen Waddle, another receiver out of Alabama. He shouldn't be on the board at this point. Okay. Excuse me. He should be gone. But with the way I set the mock draft up, with the way that teams took best player available versus need, that's how this winds up. Okay. Is some teams obviously are always going to take best player available. Some teams are always going to draft need. I think need's always the wrong way to go. Not always. Let me take that back, because sometimes best player available also fits need. But Jalen Waddle shouldn't be on the board at this point. He may even go as early as like 13 to the Chargers. Maybe if there's a situation where, after Jamar Chase goes, after Devonta Smith goes, if Philly's not left with anybody, I could see him there at 12. But if it's not in that range, he could fall drastically. Bill Belichick absolutely did the unspeakable in terms of Bill Belichick lore, right? And he went out and spent a ton of money in free agency and got 2 tight ends, got a receiver, got a bunch of weapons to try to replace, but he's still going to take best player available because he knows having that speed like Jalen Waddle, who's running in the high 4.2s, 4.3s, is irreplaceable for Cam for this year. Okay, so he's going to take best player available. He's going to come off the board. Indy's going to go the same way. They're going to go receiver 2. Now, I think this is a little bit early for Elijah Moore, but let me tell you why I did this. With Carson moving over, okay, they have some consistency at the tight end spot. They have, Michael Pittman out there at receiver. They have a whole stable of running backs. I love their running back room, but they really don't have. Paris Campbell hasn't had an opportunity to really pan out yet. Paris Campbell being out of Ohio State, their slot receiver there. He hasn't had an opportunity to pan out yet, and I think until he does, they know they need to get more weapons. Chester Rogers isn't even there. So right now, Zach Pascal is maybe their 3rd string, and they desperately need to add to that receiver room. There's not too many defensive weaknesses there. So I think it's an offensive pick regardless. Maybe another guard, to go on the opposite of Quentin Nelson. That's about it. But I think Elijah Moore, what you see on his film, what you see on his tape is consistency. He catches the ball. Like, he's not making dumb drops. He's not out of position. You don't see his quarterback, overthrowing him. Like he separates well, creates himself a lot of space. And I think for Indy and for Carson to be successful, Indy's not going to do to him what Philly did to him. They're not going to refuse to get him help. They're going to go out and get him as much help as possible. And I think Elijah Moore's the move here. Now, with Jalen Waddle coming off the board, with Elijah Moore coming off the board, with all these receivers that are gone, Tennessee looks at their receiver room. Losing Corey Davis hurt. Not as, they want to say it's not as bad as they think. It's big. Okay, Corey Davis is a stud. They have A.J. Brown, who's an absolute stud of a 1. But they just lost Jonnu Smith to the Patriots, which I think was huge for them. And they're not going to realize it until they realize how it affects their run game. Kyle said reliability trumps flashability. I mean, flat out, that's the biggest thing. If Elijah Moore, catches the ball, Paris Campbell becomes expendable. And Tennessee, they're in a situation where they feel that they're not far away, but they can't get over the hump. But they've continued to have problems at corner. They just lost Adoree Jackson to the Giants, which, again, another player I think is a huge loss. I think the Titans are really going to regress this year because some of their guys that played massive roles for their team aren't going to be there either. Greg Newsome out of Northwestern, man, he's an old school corner. Real in your face, real gritty, but not flashy, right? He's going to match up really well with your best guy. He plays against all the number 1s. Now, obviously, Northwestern isn't like, some SEC program, so it looks different. But I think here at 22, I think it's a good value pick for a position of need that you haven't been able to fill for years, which is when that does trump the best player available card. All right, Pop, you can roll to that next one for me, please. All right, 23. This is a Jets' second pick. Pick number 2 overall, they took Zach Wilson. Pick 23, they're going to take Jason Alway from Penn State, the edge rusher. Dude, this dude ran a 4.3 40, and he's a defensive lineman. He's flying. This dude is blazing fast. And I think this is exciting for the Jets, right? This is Robert Saleh, their new head coach. He was the old 49ers DC. This is that guy. These are his type of people, right? Super fast, super electric defensive players that can really change the course of a game. I think Jason Alway, I took him a little bit high here, okay, for the Jets, but I think the Jets realize his value at that point. And then I'm going to go to the most exciting pick of the draft, right? Number 24. Da-da-da. Who do we have here, Pop? I'm going to let you announce it. I'm choking on my water, so.
Looks like Najee Harris,
Yeah, exactly.
halfback out of Alabama.
And so, you know what, Kyle? I'm going to get that information exactly while we're talking a bit about this. So, Najee Harris, he is a pass catching, hard nose, old school, big old thigh running back. He can do it all, man. Like pass protection is great. And here's what's cool with Pittsburgh's pick. I think it should be a running back. I think what's going to happen is James Conner's got a little bit of interest out there on free agency because he is an unrestricted free agent. Okay. But what he hasn't got is he hasn't really got any long-term suitors. The Jets were a little bit interested because he knows what's going to happen based on his play these past couple years, which is just as much the O-line's fault as it is his. Let me get it twisted. I love James Conner's game. I think he's going to come back and sign on a veteran minimum. So what Pittsburgh's going to do is what they should have been doing is they're going to go out and build a committee. Okay. And I think whether it's Najee Harris or Travis Etienne out of Clemson, I think they're interchangeable. They're both studs in between the tackles, but they both can catch the ball well out of the backfield. Now, the difference is I think Najee Harris is even good enough. You could put him out there in empty sets, right? Like you did James Conner. Okay. And he's going to catch the ball. But I don't know if you can do that with Travis Etienne. I think that's something that, we just haven't seen too much. Clemson didn't have to do that. But I think that Najee just cleans up a lot of the mistakes that James Conner had, as far as pass protection, as far as, a little bit of the vision issues after, some of the O-line breakdown. So that's going to be really exciting. I really hope Pittsburgh goes with a running back at that spot. We could also go corner. We could also go, there is some exciting linebacker prospects at that point. We could go O-line. The guy that's next pick could absolutely be a Steeler, and I would have no qualms of that. That's Tevin Jenkins, another 6'6", 330 dude. Plays tackle, plays guard, even played a little center at one point. So another guy that can move all around. We just lost Alejandro Villanueva, which, man, that sucks. But he was struggling this past year pretty bad. So definitely a possibility. I would say running back or O-line are almost certainties. I would be shocked if we would take a corner, but I did hear that we met with Asante Samuel Jr. there, Kyle. So definitely something to keep an eye on. Now, Cleveland. Okay, here's what's cool about Cleveland. Okay, Cleveland goes to the well of the known. What I mean by that is if you go back and you look at the past couple years of Cleveland's draft, actually quite a few years, they pick big names from big schools. Okay. Now, Christian Barmore is a nose tackle, defensive tackle, absolute, interior wrecker. Okay. He's taking on double team. Man is just a massive man. And last year, Cleveland took an Alabama player. The year before that, they took an LSU player. The year before that, they took an LSU player. And so they just continue to go to the well of what they know of, repeated success. And so I think they're going to go back to another big name school. They love big name schools. They love Alabama players. They took Mac Wilson last year. They took Grant Delpit out of LSU. Like they just continue to take those caliber of guys because I think they know that it's going to bring them at least a little bit of consistency. And being that the draft falls the way it does, if Barmore falls this far all the way to 26, Cleveland's going to take him. I don't think there's a doubt in the world. And Kyle, I'm trying to get the answer to your question. I think I have it right here. Jason Alway, let's see here. So official, he is 6'5", 257. Oh man, he was a redshirt sophomore. Good to know. Didn't know that. Let's see here. So he is a Penn State guy. Wow, his 40 time was 4.36. Any Alabama player that's not a QB will always have a huge impact on the team. See, that's the thing. A lot of the Alabama players, you're right, non-quarterbacks, they're usually pretty consistent, right? I mean, you don't see too many non-quarterbacks from Alabama that aren't successful, except for, I think the last one I could think of is Cam Robinson, who went to the Browns. And so, let's see here. Bench press. Kyle, that's going to bother me now because now I want to know. All right. So, Michael Parsons and Jason Alway. Okay, so Parsons put up 19 on bench. Alway put up 21 on bench. Now, if you know, right, it's 21 reps that he put up, but that's of 225. Okay, and for those of you that have benched 225, 21 times is absurd. Okay, now it's not insane. There was a Pitt player, Pop, 40 reps. 40 reps of 225. Okay, and he's in this year's draft, but he's down the list a little bit. Donald said, I thought he was with Jacksonville. He is now. Cam Robinson is with him now. And Kyle, that's the thing. Fast and strong on the edge is dangerous. That's why I think it fits the Jets. They need a little bit of that attitude, a little bit of that, lack of a better term, edge to him. So, but yeah, Cam Robinson is with Jacksonville now after he got bumped out of Cleveland. I want to say he went to the Rams and then he went to Jacksonville. So, but yeah, there's not too many Alabama skill guys or position guys as a whole that, other than I would say quarterback and running back are their two weakest spots. Okay. And of course I'm over here, asking Pittsburgh to take an Alabama running back, but it's a little bit different than, Mark Ingram. And Donald says, I can only do 225, 10 times tops. Don, that's still good, bro. 225, 10 times is still good. I put up 225 one time in my entire life, and that was a long time ago. A long time ago. So there you go. Make you feel better. But yeah, I can't believe that dude put up 40 reps. That's insane to me. But yeah, so go ahead and go to that next one, Pop. We're getting to the back end of the draft here. We're about to get that wrapped up for you. But yeah, so here is, I really contemplated a trade for Baltimore. Okay. I really contemplated them trading up for a receiver, especially when Jalen Waddle fell. But I don't think they do. Okay. They still have a lot of that Ozzie Newsome vibe. They still have a lot of that, same mentality. Still John Harbaugh. He's going to do and take, what he can at his spot. Now, a lot of people would argue the receiver that I have at 28 should be at 27. I don't think Rashad Bateman fits the Ravens. Let's be honest. I mean, Pop, you've been watching the Ravens for years, right? They have an identity. Like, you kind of know a Raven when you see one.
Yeah, like a Suggs or
right,
that type of person.
Like, there's just a certain, swagger, grit, type of edge to them that they're just a little bit of different type people. So Terrace Marshall Jr. out of LSU, I think is going to be that guy. Super tall, but plays like a slot receiver. Okay, very athletic. Now, here's kind of what's hinging on Baltimore taking a receiver. There has been videos, and it just happened 2 days ago. Antonio Brown has not successfully re-signed with Tampa Bay. Okay. Now they've been trying. That's the only offensive player that they don't have returning yet. But Antonio Brown was just working out with Lamar Jackson, and guess who else is on the Ravens? Antonio Brown's cousin, Marquise Brown. He's their other starting receiver. So I think Antonio Brown may wind up there, which may debunk the whole Terrace Marshall Jr. to the Ravens thing. Because if Antonio Brown goes, they're not taking a receiver number 1 overall.
Was he much of a factor, though, in Tampa Bay?
I love that you call it Tampa Bay. At the end, yes. In the playoffs, yes. He was one of only 2 people to score in the Super Bowl, and he scored, I think, in every playoff game except for one. Kyle said if they look like anyone else from Baltimore, they're wearing prison jumpsuits. Tampa is waiting for Larry, Donald said. Look, okay. Now, a big part of me agrees with you, but that same part of me also hurts. I do not want to see Larry have to go with Tom Brady to compete.
If that's what it's going to take to get Larry a ring, though.
But
you know
that's the part of me that's like, I will do anything to help Larry Fitzgerald get a ring. I will write petitions. I will whatever it takes. But I would love to see him stay in Arizona and them try to compete. Do I think it's realistic? No. Do I think they could make the playoffs this year? Sure, maybe. Wild card. But best case scenario, they make wild card, win one, and then he's out. And that would kill me. But exactly, Larry won't. He's got more integrity than that. And that's why I think, because they've been saying, there's been a lot of speculation out there that he is putting in his retirement effective here in a couple of days. And that's the thing. He spent one too many years. If he was going to do it, he was going to do it 2 to 3 seasons ago. You know when he was going to do it? The minute Kurt was gone is when he should have left. They even had talks about him coming to Pittsburgh, which I would have cried tears of, I don't even know. But if he was going to leave, it would have been at that point. It's been very interesting. He's been, let's just take a second and embrace Larry Fitzgerald. Enjoy the fact that we got to see as much of him as we did. Okay. Larry's one of those once in a generation type guys, right? Maybe once in a lifetime. Arguably, if he was with different quarterbacks, which I want to say he's caught a touchdown from 19 different quarterbacks, which is stupid. But
especially since he's been on the same team.
It's the same team. Yeah. 19 different quarterbacks, right? And
that's almost like the Browns.
Exactly. Kyle said, IDK, who I respect more, him or Randy Moss. You want to talk about two guys that are in that greatest of all time, conversation? I put them in there. Now it's hard because, again, are they Jerry? No. Talent-wise, are they Jerry? They're better. But it's just like the Jordan and LeBron thing, right? Just different eras. He said, and obviously there's close connection there. Yep. The Minnesota thing, the trying to stay loyal to a team, Donald said, if I was Larry, I'm buying the biggest house in Tampa tomorrow. I love it, Donald. Hey, by the way, that reminds me, we got to talk about your Spartans contract. Cause, if that's how you feel, I need to know that you're sticking around. All right. But I would be overjoyed to see Larry get a ring. Could you imagine the look on that guy's face if he got one after all this time?
I don't know who deserves one more, him or Dan Marino.
Man. Oh man. And it's so, I would love to see Larry and Adrian Peterson just magically get put on a team with a championship ring. Like that would make my sports everything. Donald, don't you give me that emoji. I know what you're talking. Don't you do it. Okay. I'm going to type out a paper on this here laptop tonight. I'm signing you for at least 2 more years. It's going to happen. I put that out there on the airwaves too. But man, it would just be, so that'll be interesting. We'll have to keep an eye on that, but that's a good point, Donald. I'm glad you brought that up. Because that definitely does kind of, I'll be honest, if I'm Arians, I'm taking Larry over AB. I don't care. Look, and AB's more talented at this point. Larry's much more limited, but I'm still doing it. You had input. Come on.
No, I don't know. I mean, that's a pretty tough, because I think Larry Fitzgerald is just, his talent, even at his age, is still unbelievable. And I think when you combine, when you add Brown's insanity to the whole, I don't know. I think overall Fitzgerald's more valuable to Tampa Bay than Brown could ever be.
Yeah, no, and see, that's where I agree too. Because here's what's crazy. Right now, with Fitzgerald's IQ, you put him in the slot, he's going to create himself space. Like it's that simple. Kyle said, but he almost means more to me not having a ring than just jumping teams to get one. And that's what it is. It's the sentimental thing. You know, you want to root for him to be successful.
And you got to think about Larry Fitzgerald with the quarterback acumen of Brady. That's a different game.
Yeah, that's
going to make
those
Fitzgerald,
2 IQs.
Yeah, that's going to make Fitzgerald look even better than he is.
Right. Donald said, honestly, ever since Larry was put in the slot, he hasn't been getting the ball like he used to. Absolutely. You know why? Kyler's not a slot thrower. He's not. Because I'm going to tell you right now, when you're a mobile quarterback, the slot disappears real quick. The minute you move left or you move right. Well, see, the slot hasn't hurt Larry. The quarterback being shorter and moving the pocket hurts Larry. When you're a slot receiver and you have a quarterback that's mobile, the slot pretty much doesn't exist. The only people that you're able to see in your direct line of sight is your outside receivers, right? So that's what happens. So when he's running around and it's Hail Mary time, he's not looking towards the middle of the field. He's looking to hop, you know?
Kyle says he can't see over his lineman. Kyle, he's lucky if he can ride the roller coaster.
Dude, that man is short. He is short. They have a great, there was that NFL minis that was going around, right? And shout out to NFL minis because they did some free work for me. They actually did one of Donald. You saw it. We had one done for Martwan Weaver. They made his head huge and the rest of his body really tiny. It was hilarious. But they have an NFL mini of Kyler Murray, and the ball is regular size, and the rest of his body is so incredibly small. It's incredible. Donald said they should have drafted Lamar over Rosen. Could you imagine? Do you imagine Arizona with Lamar? Man. Oh, that would have been incredible. Well, so yeah, that's, long-winded, but now that we're back to the Baltimore thing, I think that tears would help Lamar. I still think that offense is going to be Lamar-centric, which it should be, but I think that's going to help with that case. So that being the case, these next 2 picks, okay, I think they're interchangeable. Both teams need a receiver. Both teams need a corner. I think the Saints could go get Asante Samuel Jr. just as easily as they could take Rashad Bateman with that pick. I think Rashad Bateman, I know the Packers GM was at Minnesota's pro day to look at him, especially sitting at that slot. They were very excited. They need receiver help. Devontae Adams is all alone. Will Fuller basically said F you and went over to Miami instead. So either one of them, I think they could wind up. Yeah, long live Drew Brees. Man, for real, that's the guy. Oh, that's going to be weird not seeing him. Oh, that is going to be weird. Donald says, how do you pass on Lamar 1 year, then draft Murray the next? It makes no sense. I need to be the GM of that team. Me too, Don. Me too. I'm right there. I'm telling you. Donald said the Lions wouldn't interview me. I think the Lions would be scared of you, Donald, especially with all the anger that you have for them right now. But yeah, so I think those next 2 picks are interchangeable. Asante Samuel is going to be a difference maker regardless. He's going to be a really good value pick. He's going to be a strong number 2 corner. Okay. It'll take him some time. He'll get to number 1, but those first, I would say, year or 2, he's going to be a really strong number 2. But that division, the NFC North, having a corner that also likes to play the run is super valuable, and Asante Samuel Jr. does. Donald making fun of the Lions head coach. He said, I just wouldn't bite off kneecaps. You know what? And that's probably why they wouldn't interview you. So get with the program, Donald. But here's what's cool. So at 30, the Bills, okay, they do need some, linebacker, D-line help. But do they really need that much? No, that roster is pretty solid. So they're going to take a flyer here. Okay. Now there's 2 edge rushers from Miami. Both are super dominant. Both could be at the back end of that first round. It's Jalen Phillips and Gregory Rousseau. From what I've heard, okay, from, what they've been talking about with the pro days and some of the scouts, Jalen Phillips is the more talented, but they've heard that he has had some character issues. So Buffalo could kind of take a flyer here, take a chance, since their roster is pretty deep right now. Take a possibility of a stud edge rusher, right? And, worst case scenario, he doesn't pan out, you move on. Fine, no harm, no foul. But if he does pan out, I mean, that's a home run, right? So I think that's what they'll do at 30 is they'll kind of take a flyer on a guy that might be a little bit more, high risk as far as character and some of those things. So that'll be interesting to see. All right, we're going to finish up the end of that last round. I'm going to give you 2 picks out of the second. Then I'll post the rest on there because I know I've been killing you guys for the past hour and a half. Kansas City, the rich get richer. Dylan Radunes, he's a tackle out of North Dakota State. He could play multiple positions, tackle, guard, doesn't matter. Kansas City lost a couple O linemen, so they're going to have to get those replaced. He's a freaking workhorse, Dylan Radunes. So take a look at him. And man, this hurt me. Okay, we're talking about the rich get richer. Tampa needs outside linebackers. Okay, me and a guy, Reggie from the Spartans, were talking about this guy, Zaven Collins. If you want to watch some fun film of an absolute baller of a backer, Zaven Collins is that dude. I think he's good enough to play inside. They're going to kick him outside. So that'll be crazy. And Kansas City does need a tackle. But yeah, Zaven Collins, he'll kind of play that like hybrid outside edge. So that'll be interesting to see, another stud go to a team that literally needs no person added to their roster. And then the reason I wanted to show this pick, number 33, the first pick of the second round, because it's Jacksonville again. So if I recap, Jacksonville got Trevor Lawrence, the best quarterback in the draft. They got like the second best tackle in the draft. And then they're going to go and get a receiver who can basically model what Antonio Brown did. Kadarius Toney from Florida. Freak. He's going to be like a Tyreek Hill-esque. Okay? Absolute freak out of Florida. So he's going to be there. And then I think the Jets double down on defense and they go out and get another edge rusher and just make that D-line ferocious. So thank you guys so much for tuning into this. Please let me know, what your top 10 picks are. Let me know, what your thoughts are on mine. You can go all through 34, pick them apart, say you agree, disagree, who you would like to see instead. Donald, who are the Lions picking at 7, man? I got Jamar Chase for you guys, but tell me who you think you're picking. Put in the comments who you think your team's taking in the first round. We're going to recap it all out. Like I said, I'm going to post these on our Instagram. But if you guys have been tuning in, thank you so much for your patience. I know that was a long episode, but this is our first and official and only mock draft for 2021. So I wanted to drop that, put that out there for you guys. Please let me know your thoughts. Until then, he said, if they don't pick Devontae Smith, I'll be pissed. You would like him over Jamar Chase. I would like to hear more about that. Let me know. Until next time, I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for hanging around, especially for those on the West Coast. Man, it's already 10 o'clock. Man, shout out Pops. That's what we're here for, Kyle. But until next time, guys, I appreciate you. I hope you have a great rest of the week. And I don't know what else. Subscribe to our YouTube. Go to saywhatyourradio.com. Check it out. Till next time.